Let's go, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the LA Poker Roundup. It is August 6th, 2024, and this is episode 49. Oh, wow, that number's getting big, man. We've got hopefully a little more laid back episode for you this week. Hold on, I'm getting a phone call, strangely enough. We're going to start out with the results from around LA, as usual.
And then we're going to cover a crazy bomb scare at Hollywood
Wow.
Park.
I think actually, is there an earthquake going on? Do you feel something, Derek?
I don't, but your thing is shaking.
I am shaking. I don't think that was a phone call. I think that was an
Oh,
alert.
I
You
got
feeling
it.
it?
Now I got that.
All right.
Now I
Well,
got
there you
that.
go, everyone. Live from LA, there's an earthquake, and we just felt it. So I guess it wasn't a phone call. It was a notification. There's an earthquake coming. So get under something solid, man. It wasn't too bad. Let's see if there's
That's
another
crazy.
one.
So you were closer to the epicenter because I caught that like maybe 5 seconds later.
Yeah, it must. I'm guessing it must have been up north in the desert or something. Jeez. All
That
right. Well,
is
it didn't
crazy.
feel too bad, but definitely noticed it, man. Holy cow.
It's still kind of shaking a little bit. It's crazy.
Wow. All right. Well, if I shake again, I'll let you know. You can see tie down your pets. All right. Where were we? How appropriate. You just mentioned the bomb scare at Hollywood Park, right?
Yeah.
All right. After that, news in the poker world has come out about details of a live cheating ring that's been happening. I don't know if it's a ring or organized or what, but a method that people have apparently been using for at least the last year and a half. So we'll inform you of that.
And now, we've been talking about solvers for quite a bit and definitely covered it during the big controversy at the WSOP final table. But now, with the big new update from GTO Wizard, let's talk a little bit about, is this getting dangerous for the game?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of varying opinions on that and a lot of varying viewpoints to talk about that on. So after that, after we talk about something that Derek loves, because we all love Derek's GTO Wizard breakdowns, we'll go to something I love and we'll get back to talk about rules. Let's get back to that TDA summit that we skipped over before and talk a little bit
Oh,
about what
yeah.
happened there.
Yeah, that's right. We never finished that up.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's one of Ty's obvious, favorite topics.
love it.
And then we're gonna wrap it up with the weekly roundup as always.
Yep. All right, let's dig in, guys. So, we have some good results reported this week on the old Twitter space here from Kevin, our voted favorite tournament director in LA, and he's killing it, man. He got pictures of everybody. So let's head on over to the Gardens. So I believe this was either a Thursday or the Wednesday tournament. I didn't do my math on it, sorry, but congratulations to Jamie Nalen of Santa Ana. He had the most chips, won the final table, the entire final table apparently decided to chop in the 10K guarantee bounty event. The 10K guarantee, which had a prize pool of 25,000, once again, absolutely destroying their guarantees. So, like I said, I think that must have been the Wednesday one. So, congrats. Also, note in the notes here, Jeremy, our buddy Jeremy Hamey, old Hambone, got second in that chop, and fourth Sang Park.
Really is the year of the Jeremy, man. This dude's having an unbelievable year.
I mean, he said if we counted the dailies over at Hollywood Park, he would probably win our Player of the Year hands down, and I'm starting to believe him. So let's move on. Let's move on to the Friday night event. The 5 p.m. Friday night event. Winner here was Sao Kiev, and if you recall, he had a really great finish in the Memorial Day weekend event as well. So way to go. He took home over 5K in the 5K chop, or the 5-way chop, that Friday night. He has no other notables there, but that also destroyed. That was a 5K 20. He does not write the prize pool. That was a different tweet, but it also beat the guarantee by a little bit. So congratulations to Sao.
Yeah, congrats all you guys for your excellent finishes. And we're really looking forward to whatever Kevin has in store over the Gardens shortly.
Yeah, yep. I can't wait either. He teased that he would be having a full series happening in September, and
Yeah,
I can't wait to see what's
unbelievable.
going to happen.
It's gonna be awesome.
Let's move on to Saturday. So congratulations to Alfonso Alcantara, a man I have quite a bit of history with here. So he took home over 4,200 in a 5-way chop on Saturday. So Friday and Saturday, both 20K guarantees. So way to go. And he must not have had quite the commanding chip lead, but he did have a very nice one. You remember, these are $250 tournaments. These are $250 dailies. They're winning 4,000, 5,000. 6,000, 7,000 for first place. I mean, this is great
crazy.
for just a weekly. So way to go, Alfonso. If you probably don't recall. He's actually the guy who got second place in the Memorial Day tournament last year that I won. So he was the guy I
Oh,
played heads up with, and he got second place. Really
oh,
fun. Yeah, really great guy. He played a lot of cash before that. I think that gave him the tournament bug though, because I talked to him a bit. I've talked to him quite a bit since then over at the Gardens primarily, and he said he loves tournaments. He plays them all the time now. That was obviously all of our biggest scores at that final three, and
mm,
he was telling me he's going to be moving to Vegas because they have more tournaments to play, better tournaments. He's really, he's all about this
wow,
now. He really caught that bug
nice.
hard, and way to go in this win, man.
Oddly, I don't really recognize him. Maybe I played with him before,
Yeah,
but moving to
typically
Vegas. Yeah.
typically has like a hat and like I think glasses on. He's a little harder to
Mm,
identify, but he's
I see.
actually he's a really friendly guy, really nice guy. It was really joy to play with him at the end of that thing back then. And then look at this Sunday, Jeremy second place on Wednesday wasn't good enough. He was the chip leader when the 7 chopped the Sunday bounty, which got to listen to this. This was a 10K guaranteed event. It had a $34,000 prize pool
What the
for
heck?
100. I think this is $130 buy-in. It might be 150.
Sunday.
I think
Yeah, this
this
was. I mean,
he's
this
he's
is
got the
running
thing right here.
alongside running alongside the bike.
Yeah, so the
Legend
Sunday's
list.
$130 buy-in. $130 buy-in. They had a $34,000 prize pool in a daily. That Hambone here
Crazy.
had a massive chip lead. He was showing us pictures. First prize was actually what, like 7 grand, 72 or so, 7,200.
Yeah.
And he got like 5,200 in the chop, which is huge because there's 7 people chopped. He got a really large percentage first place with a 7-way chop.
That's unbelievable.
But I mean, just want to talk. That's 342 entries in this thing, right? It's
Yeah.
probably no.
Yeah. I mean,
Actually, it's probably more because you have to take the bounty out,
yeah. And yeah.
depending on how they
Again,
did it.
running this like alongside Legends at the same time and getting those numbers is bananas.
Yeah. So let's talk about those. I can quick talk about those numbers. Before I forget. So, the Saturday one. Now I'm kind of remembering now because I went over there on Friday night after the deep stack at the Legends, and I went over there. I think on Friday night because the evening tournament at the bike was a $150 to the prize pool plus $50 rake tournament with a 15K guarantee, whereas the Friday night tournament at the Gardens was 200 to the prize pool with 50 to rake with a 20K guarantee. So I went there, and I think they did just barely beat the guarantee honestly on Friday. So it was a tough competition with the 1 days, and on Saturday there it was competing with that 1 day the 150K guarantee 1 day at the bike. So I think they also barely beat the guarantee that day. So those were a little unusual for Gardens, but they were running really massive 1 days at the bike. But then this Sunday, it was only running against day ones for the mini mega, right? So not real high priority tournaments for a lot of people, and it just destroyed. Look at that, 34,000 in the prize pool. I mean, holy cow.
Yeah.
So so let's take a quick, before we head over to the main series happening in town, let's take a quick detour over to Commerce. So Commerce was running a promo all of July where you get 100 hours in and you get entry into a free roll. And the prizes for that free roll were, I believe, entry into the circuit event main coming up in November. And they gave away 100 seats. So that's 100 entries into the circuit main. Bam, right there. Which
Wow.
means, what's that? It's another 100 and like 110,000 into the prize pool, just like that.
Already. Jeez.
Yep.
Crazy.
So way to go. A bunch of people got that. And I think when they posted about it, they had 177 entries and there was still some time left. So I'm guessing they really probably didn't get more than 250 entries in that. So it was a really good percentage of people getting in to get that seat. So congrats all them. And then they have a new promo now in August. In August, starting yesterday, starting Sunday, they're doing basically a random seat drawing. So if you look, they have it says 300K plus August, so they're giving away 300K in value. And basically from 12 p.m. to 9 p.m. on Sunday through Thursday, they will randomly pick a game, and everyone at that game will high card for the winner.
Yeah.
My
Yeah. It's such
guess,
a
yeah, it doesn't.
interesting and fun.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't specify, but I think it's for the main event. But it just says all entries won will be for the World Series circuit in November. I didn't find more details on their website, so when you go, you may have to ask if you're really interested. But it is free stuff. It's more seats. I'm guessing these will mostly be seats into the main event, but
The nice thing is that the Commerce is doing this stuff so early The last WSOPC obviously felt a little bit rushed, right?
Yeah.
But this one feels like that there's more lead time. But then, like number one, I didn't really even know the free roll was going on. I don't. I just feel like maybe they're gonna do a better job of like promoting those things, and then obviously when you're putting stuff on there and on a flyer and a website, just specify like what you're actually like winning. Those are just like little details that you can get in there.
Yeah, that one for sure. I'm very like I searched all over the flyer. I went to the website. It's very puzzling. Like, what exactly are you freaking winning? I
Yeah,
know it's entry to something, but I'm not sure how much its value is. I mean, on the other hand, it's free seat giveaway. But me as a tournament player, I love it when they do these free entry giveaways. But
yeah,
on the other hand, I do feel a little bit for the cash players. A lot of times it's really not quite the same thing for the cash players to be paying the promo drops and then to not get cash back when they win. They get tournament entries, which they have to commit for. They may or may not be able to use. They may or may not be any good at tournaments or whatnot. It's definitely not the same as
yeah.
just winning a high hand, winning the bad beat. So assuming this comes out of that prize drop and not just extra from the casino. I mean, if it were extra from the casino, way to go, love it. But I really doubt that's the case. It's probably from that promo drop.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, I think the other benefit, so yes, then from a return on your uh,
Kind of rake
investment
back,
or
right?
whatever, I guess your hours, right? Like your rake back, you're not getting the traditional cash rake back, but what you're getting is probably a ton more players in your cash
Yeah,
games. 'Cause, like it was like wall to wall at the last WSOBC, right? So I'm pretty sure it's probably like pretty packed in there right
that's
now
true.
too,
That's true.
with all these promos going on. So you're getting that part of it, and then the commerce obviously is just trying to drive more players to both. So you know,
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Yep. No, like I said, as a tournament player, selfishly, love it.
Yeah,
I love that they're filling
sure.
these things. I mean, this is like they're trying to hit their guarantees before anyone even registers. And
Yeah,
if
I'm
all
pretty
these
sure
people,
those. Yeah, I'm pretty sure those cash games are super soft right now. So
yeah,
I'm sure you guys will just
um,
take it.
and if all these guys register with vouchers, then that will help alleviate some of the problem of registrations and the that we had last time. I have a feeling they're not going to fix that by the time this comes around. I have a feeling we're still going to have some problems with that. So, what's up,
Yeah.
Xander? You felt the earthquake too? Awesome, awesome. So that is what's happening over at Commerce right now. So let's hop over to the bike, right? So the big tournament this weekend was the 150 guarantee, and the Final Four chopped it up. So congratulations to Calvin Chan. He had the highest part of the chop and got
Nice.
$30,685. That's pretty specific. So way to go. I mean, for a $400 buy-in, that's pretty dang good.
Yeah. Oh, $400 one day too.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think I played with this guy a couple of times.
Yeah,
Super nice guy.
very for
So yeah,
sure.
good to see a nice guy ship.
Yep, that hat's pretty signature of his. In
Yeah, it
fact, when
is. It
when,
is.
when Frank gave me that World Series cowboy hat, I felt like I needed to take it off so people wouldn't think I was this guy. Second place in the chop, Hugo Diaz, 26,000. It's kind of hard to tell who he is, but there you go. Third place, Zaradash Zada, 26,000 as well. It looks mildly familiar. Still, picture's hard to tell a little bit, but congratulations to Zaradash. And the fourth place chop was Rocky Lee. I definitely read his name before. Also 26,000. So looks like these three had pretty much identical stacks, and he had them outchipped by just a bit.
Yeah, congrats, guys. It was a really, really big score. Like we're saying for a $400
Yeah, for four.
one day. Yeah.
It's insane. Like this one day, it was the same as last time. So last time, oh man, I clicked the wrong one. So last time they had about about 740 runners, I think, and they had around the same number this time. So it's around the same prize pool, which is interesting. So we'll get around to some of the complaints about the space again, the scheduling, but they had about the same number of runners overall. So that's great for them, huge. And it's just funny. They have these like people, like places in places around here run 200K multi-day tournaments, right? It's like, what are you
Yeah.
doing, man? You guys are killing it in a single day. You can beat 200K in a single day if you really try. Why are you running 200Ks as a multi-day guarantee? But
Yeah, and I think that's basically what when Jeff had come over and talked to me, and I think you and I were wondering, well, why is there this weird like themeless week that doesn't seem like there was anything in the middle of Legends? And he said it was basically to try to get this, very popular like one day up,
yeah.
just so it could be, just like a standalone event. Because most other times when you try to run multi-day, you have to kind of land on the weekend. So a good thing they're trying to land on the weekend to support working people,
Hmm.
but then you kind of can't run these one days, you don't have space.
Yeah.
So yeah, just good to see.
Yep. No, I love these one days. We do love these one days. Now I ran awful in both of the 150K one days this time, but
Yeah.
whatever, it happens.
I still don't love the one days, but I'm supportive of them because everyone else likes them.
Yeah, it just like think about it. These guys that are getting these big scores. They're gonna be in all the big events this year. I'm sure we've seen them playing
Yeah,
all the time. There's no way they don't want to keep running it back. So
yeah.
they posted the rest of the file table. Let's go through them. So fifth place here. Fifth place, congratulations to Timothy Lee, 11,700. Sixth place, Ross Villanueva. That's definite guy we see playing all the time. So congratulations, sixth place for 9 grand. Zehao Jin, seventh place for 7 grand. Very familiar face here. Karo Davtian, eighth place, 5,000 and a half. And we have the rest of the final table over here. We've got Giancarlo Mansilongan, ninth place, and Behrad Sardarizade, 10th place. So congratulations to the top 10 in that event.
Yeah, good job, guys.
So
What an event.
yeah, I have a couple. So I have a couple things that to point out about the event. One, it started off, I feel, a lot slower than the last one. We were there from the beginning, right? I feel like the room filled at an earlier level. Now, the room did eventually completely fill, just like last time, but I feel like the whole room was packed much earlier last time because I remember thinking last time, if they had more tables, we would have, so that room seats like 450 people or something like that, maybe a little fewer, maybe 420. I remember thinking, man, if they had more tables, they could have, 550 people playing at once or something like that. And because the line was still, people were still waiting for alternates. And this time I don't remember thinking that. It took a while to fill out the rest of the rooms. And I honestly think that might be a little bit of backlash from the other week with the bad scheduling and the big long lines. I think that didn't help, to be honest, because usually people are there bright and early. Usually people are there, they're lining it. And this time that wasn't the case. And if I had come last week, there were a lot of people like Julie and like some of the other folks at Commerce. They got there early and they couldn't play because there were only 8 tables for them. So that's just that's pretty infuriating if you're trying to come and have fun. This is your day off or this is your recreation. So I don't know. That was just a thought. I thought that was a thing.
Yeah, I mean you're right that it was like pretty empty in there until like all of a sudden I kind of like looked up and I was
Pretty
like,
close
whoa,
to
this
late
room is
reg.
full.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't know what else. I mean, I guess maybe if we want to stop that, like, you can again just speed up the earlier levels a
Yep.
little bit, right? Give us a little bit more play in the middle, and then maybe people won't be so incentivized at late reg if, by coming in by
Yeah.
level 3, they're already at like 50 big blinds or something.
Yeah, and that's the thing about this event is, man, they do leave registration open so crazy long. It's through 9
Yeah.
less, and when you come in
Yeah.
the 9th level, like even though we start with plenty of chips, so we start with 30. Was this a 30K or 40K? 30K chip stack, I think. So you start with 30K chips, but level 9 was 1,200 level, I think. So I think max late reg is a 1,500. So you come in 20 bigs probably with max late reg or slight. I think
Yeah.
no, I think when you come in with max late reg, it was like 23 bigs. I think it was the 1,200 level.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
it's a long
like 20
time.
bigs for late reg is okay, but 9 levels is ridiculous,
Yeah,
right? So 9 levels at 20 bigs is ridiculous.
Yeah, at much higher than that. But they still hit their numbers because I contributed a solid 3 or 4 bullets to this guy. I'm dedicated, so we're making sure they hit their numbers. I think you almost cashed. Is that what happened? You got really close on one bullet, or did you cash? I forget what happened. No, was that last week?
No, I don't.
Not last
I
week.
don't
Was that the
remember
last one?
cashing. I think I fired 3 and did not cash, from what I remember.
Did you
Or
cash
did I
the last
cash? I don't
150?
remember.
Is that what happened the last one day? Am I getting confused? I thought.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Actually,
I'm in too
everything's a
many.
blur.
Yeah, I'm in too many
Everything
poker
is a
chats
blur.
now. Who knows? But yeah. But then
Yeah,
once the
I
room
don't, I
filled,
don't,
I
I don't
did have
recall
another.
cashing this weekend. Yeah.
I did have another problem though. Once the room filled up, because that registration was open so long, they actually ran into that same kind of problem that they did the other week, where they had 2 events going and they didn't have the tables to support it because they started the quantum that evening for what to me seems like no reason.
That's right.
almost no reason because they started the quantum that late. When I busted my last bullet, it was still maybe 10, 15 minutes of the last level that you could reg, and I come out and there's a line now. There's a pretty long line. And they had one row and they were starting to work on a second row that they were opening tables for that quantum for the quantum day one, which they started a touch early, I believe. Not too late. I'm not early, late. Not as late as last time. This time maybe like 10 minutes late. So I ended up getting in the quantum because that was less popular, but they once again ran out of tables at the end. Now I think they had too many dealers in the beginning because they didn't want what happened last time. But I'm so confused. These things are popular. They are doing well. Why can't they use more rooms in the casino? Why can't they get more dealers? They have cash game dealers. Why can't we do something? Like if you don't they know people are coming? Like I have to think they know, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, especially it's like Legends, it's the weekend, nothing else is really going on.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to be there. So, yeah.
Yep. So I don't know. That was strange. But that did kick off. And then
Yeah.
the other thing,
You know what I did notice was actually like in that so you know how they had the cash games like buried all the way in the back where the Chinese restaurant is?
yeah.
So it looks like I'm not sure if you noticed it when they opened up those cash game tables down in that kind of nice middle area. So
Yep.
that was nice.
Yeah, and I think that's temporary though because they're out of space. I asked the floor. So after I busted, I went and played cash for a bit. And I actually they had just putting tables anywhere. So in the old area that kind of had like sun coming in, it felt like a patio. They held a tournament once in there, I think during COVID. That's kind of like a storage area now, and they had a couple cash tables set up in there. That's actually where I played, and there's no music, there's no monitors, there's no nothing. It felt like I was playing. I kept telling everybody like, yeah, I'm back in the warehouse. I'm playing in the storage closet. So like they still are doing everything temporary. And the floor guy or the chip runner said that he's pretty sure that once they're done with the renovation or the recarpeting and painting or whatever they're doing that closed off half of that side room, they're gonna put the tables back in there, and that's still gonna be the poker room.
It's like rug pulling. You put the cash the cash game players in a nice area for a little bit.
I know, right?
Rug pull them out of
When I moved here, the cash games were in that center area. You walked through those doors, and the cash was right in front of you. It was in the big area with the big ceiling. It just felt nice. I loved playing there, and then they moved it. It just feels like you're being put in a closet. Yeah,
that's
Xander,
kind of
same
where
thing.
I kind of grew up was by cash games in the top section. Like all the high limit. 5, 10, 10, 20.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of nice windows up there, and then it's just so sad walking through there now.
Yeah, exactly. And here's another thing that they said is they're still considering putting the higher stakes cash games in a different spot. Look, if you guys are listening, don't do that. Put the private Legends room somewhere else, sure, but don't put the 5-5 games and the 5-10 games away from the 2-3 games. It's gonna hurt them. It's gonna hurt them a lot, and it's annoying. Especially a lot of people are kind of in between 2-5 and 5-5 or 2-3 and 5-5. Like, I don't want to put my name on 5-5 and 2-3 and then have to go back and forth between different parts of your casino. And nobody can, you're going to get so fewer people doubling up at 2-3 and be like, I'm going to 5-5 if you put them separate. Like, don't do that. Keep them together, man. Yeah. So if you're listening, do that. The best 5-5 game I ever played at the bike it was so packed that they put a 5-5 game down on the lower steps. And nobody realized it. And it was so packed, people kind of slip in and try and sit down and just, sneak in sort of. They all thought it was a 2-3 game, but that game wasn't full because it was a 5-5. So 2-3 players kept sitting down because it was so crowded, trying to slip into the game, thinking they're cool. And then they'd like put down $200 or whatever, and like minimum's 300, and they'd be like, "What? Oh!" But they wouldn't leave. So they kept playing, and they would just come in, play. They just dump, and then they leave because they only brought enough roll for a 2-3 game, or they're only playing 2-3, but they played 5-5 with us. So, yeah. But anyways, don't do it, guys. Don't separate those rooms. It's annoying. It's bad. All right. And then the other thing I want to kind of be, and now partially gripe because of what I'm doing with the Player of the Year, and partially it's just annoying. Other people have messaged about this. They still don't have a single result on Hendon from Legends.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There's not a single result posted on Hendon Mob yet from the Legends event. Not the very first event is still not posted. If you look and you search the bike, they still have the Legends of Poker as an upcoming festival. And I'm not sure I'm guessing this is not the case because this happened at their last series as well. But guys, people want to see the results in Hendon, and they'd like to see them in less than a month. I would like to see them sooner so I can get this Player of the Year started without having to do, I'm going to have to do the entire series all at once because it sounds like they're going to pull it in that way. But contact Hendon, send them emails. They're very responsive. And by this, I'm talking to, I'm talking to Jeff, I'm talking to Mo, whoever's in charge of doing that. Like, you have the data, you probably have it in a nice spreadsheet. Just like email Hendon and say, hey, is this the right spreadsheet format? Let me send you my results so that you can put them in better. Because I mentioned this before, the results they have on the website, they're also a little behind. They don't have any of the results from this past week in there. So like the 150, Legendary 150 from last week, that result sheet isn't up on their website yet. So they lag a little there. But the ones that are in there from before then, they're pretty, but that's not an easy format to cut and paste the data out of. You have to do a lot of manual massaging to get it to look right and to line up right. So I would recommend modifying those or sending your spreadsheets directly to Hendon because, man, it's been a month. The Legends has been going on for a month and there's not a single result.
Yeah, this is crazy. You guys got to get some results up here. I mean, this is again, like, I keep stressing this. We have 2 flagship events in LA. It's LAPC, Legends of Poker, and not good that Legends of Poker is showing nothing on Hendon Mob right now.
Right. I mean, it's just like that's good advertising. It's like the people who play want to get those props or whatever, and this isn't like a daily, right? So, and they will be up there. Every big bike series does get the results in the Hendon. It's just, man, it's like when you're slow like this, right? When it's delayed, it's like, especially when it's repeated, it's not a great look. That's all.
No. Yeah.
So those are my pieces. But, great event, smashing the guarantee. Love it. This week we're doing the mini mega. I don't love the quantums as much. We all know this. But looking forward big time to the Park West Classic. That's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So I have one more thing of results. So I was, following my favorite grumpy Twitter personalities, and Mr. Salzberg, last week I played with him for a minute, and he asked if I was going to Thunder Valley, and he said he was thinking of going out for the main, and he did, and he got 45th. So way to go. Congratulations, nice. Matt Salzberg.
Good job.
45th in the Thunder Valley Run Good main. So way to go.
That was a big event. I saw the numbers for the final table, and they were big numbers. I think Terrence Reed shipped it, so yeah, congrats to him. But
yeah, yep. I think it was right around 200K.
Yeah, something like that.
Yep.
But good job, Matt. Man, you are such a grinder.
Yeah, way to go. So that's all the results I have around. Once again, if you guys have results, if you know results, if you're talking to tournament directors, tell them to send us results or send your own results in. Love to see it. We'd love to shout out the people in the LA community who are doing great around there. So how fitting that we just had an earthquake, because our headline story this week is a bomb threat sends the gamblers scrambling from Hollywood Park Casino. So Hollywood Park we don't talk about too much. Bring them up every week. They do have tournaments, but we don't talk about them a ton. They're kind of secretive. But, man, this is crazy. So they're sitting there, and there's a report of a possible bomb threat. Everybody had to leave. I mean, look at this picture. When's the last time you saw people actually leave a casino for anything?
Yeah, that's insane. Earthquakes happen. People don't move.
Yeah. Like, so what happened apparently was security started. So someone must have, called in a bomb threat or something, but at some point security started coming around and telling everyone you have to leave. Everyone has to leave, let's get moving. And then rumors started coming around that there was an active shooter, so people started actually responding and being a little bit more enthusiastic about it, let's say. And we did a little detective work. Derek got out in the streets, tried to figure out if anybody was there, had any extra info. And we have some first-hand accounts from whoever this WSR Beastie is, and he says he was sitting at the high-limit tables when the officer came and said that he had to get out, and that this was not a drill, but he didn't tell what was happening, so that's awesome. So then people started to panic, and he said that he ended up jumping the fence in the smoking area with 4 other people, so that's not a good situation. Maybe they need to run some more drills on how to evacuate their casino. I mean, you don't want people jumping fences. And then we got another message here from Catchment 22. He said this is secondhand or third hand. His friend said that while security was telling everyone to get out.
Catchment's Mark Fiorentino.
Oh, awesome. So from Mark Fiorentino. Oh, well, we'll give him a thumbs up later on. Apparently, he bagged huge for the mini mega. So here's Mark. He says that his buddy told him that while they were telling everyone to evacuate, someone knocked over one of those, drink carts or whatever, and it made a really loud bang. So that's probably where the active shooter
gunfire,
panic started, and then that just caused a huge panic. So that's really unfortunate.
Yeah, scary stuff.
Luckily, it appears that there was no actual threat. It says they did a sweep. Bomb squad found nothing. Rumors are saying someone must have just lost and called it in or whatever, but That's wild to be. Have you ever been? So Derek, have you ever been in a casino when a bomb threat has been called?
No, I don't.
No. So
Other than like drills, like in school and stuff, I don't ever remember like being a part of a real like call-in.
yeah, so I've never been in a casino when a bomb threat's called, but I'm still a little surprised that everyone got out so fast. Maybe the active shooter thing makes more sense that they moved because I have been in
Yeah,
poker rooms when fire alarms go off, and I tell you what, nobody moves a muscle. Fire alarms
yeah,
go off, you
nobody
just
moves.
look around for smoke, nobody moves. I
Right.
believe I was in a I believe I might have been in a like a either it was either like in Lac City or like maybe like a Maryland area casino or something, and I think maybe we ended up with some chip covers or something, but nobody really moved. I think we were very slowly and eventually heard it out, but nobody got it. Wasn't like, oh, there's an alarm, we all need to leave for our safety. It was just sitting there, right? Um,
Yeah.
I've been in the casino. I've been in poker rooms for some really wild stuff, and poker players do not move. I swear. Like I wasn't there.
You know what you know
Wh-
what's the funniest thing is when there's actually like newer, inexperienced poker players and something like that happens and they get up in a panic and they're looking around bewildered because nobody's moving.
Yeah,
It's like
exactly.
then they just like sit back down because they're just like, okay, I guess I'm just supposed to sit back down.
Yeah, yeah. Like, can you imagine? You know what? This is a this is kind of a good segue. Can you imagine Alan Kessler getting off of a slot machine that he thought was going to hit
No,
just
no way. It
because
wouldn't even
there was
flinch.
an alarm or there was a or there was or there was some sort of
Right.
security giving a non-specific threat?
Yeah.
Like, come on, seriously.
You
Do you
just start
think
arguing with him. Yeah.
that the man who just hit a $1.2 million jackpot at slots would get out of a seat and he'd be like, "No, this is a joke. You're just trying to get me off this slot. Someone's going to take my seat, aren't they?"
Right.
Right?
Right. Right.
Um
Yeah.
so on that
Yeah, I
seg, let
don't
me
know
just
what's
show the
wrong with him.
picture. I don't think we've congratulated him. So, congratulations, Mr. Alan Kessler. He literally did. I wasn't joking. He won that $1.2 million slot pull.
Yeah, good for him, man. We all like to pick on
Yeah.
Alan, and Alan is Alan, but he's a good guy overall.
Yeah,
But yeah,
he's
glad
very
glad the
particular,
ship
but
is.
likes to support the content creators. He's commented and talked about our show before too. He's got some interesting
Yeah,
takes that we disagree with and some that we do agree with. So, but yeah, 1.2 million. I think he ended up taking a lump sum for like 800,000 and whatever's left after
yeah,
taxes. But yeah.
yeah.
So what's the
You know
wildest
what's wild?
stuff?
You know
Oh,
what's
good, good.
wild? You know what's Well, what's wild to me is that there are like advantage players in
Hmm.
slots. Like when I learned about this a couple years ago, I was like, wow, really? Like, so there's like players that actually kind of stalk, or especially around like when progressives are happening,
Yeah,
and
that's
they just kind of like know at what point like a machine is kind of like due to hit, and then they just sort of just jump in there and start playing. It's like really nuts.
yeah, that's predatory. I like to consider myself an advantage lotto player. You know, if you
Yeah,
if the jackpot's big
but
enough,
it's but
it's
it
sort of plus EV to play.
but it's wild to me. There's actually like a methodology for slots, like where they can just tell when a specific machine or just like some sort of pattern right is about to kind of go. Um,
Yeah, I definitely
yeah,
haven't looked into it.
it's nuts to me. I wouldn't. Yeah,
I have not looked into it. I know the only one I know is the same way that I think about the lottery is if the prize is big enough and doesn't matter if the odds are bad, the prize is big enough.
yeah,
Now the variance is out of this world, but at
yeah,
least that that dollar is positive. Um,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, technically, as long as it's over whatever the odds are, like 350 or 380 million to one or whatever, right? But then
I like to
after
double
lump sum
that.
and taxes
Yeah,
and potential for ties, like
yep.
yeah, there's no world in which playing lotto is
I don't
plus
like
CV.
I don't like playing unless it's at least a billion. I like there to be a little bit of wiggle room there.
Yeah, and it's crazy when you say billion because we've hit that number a couple of times,
Yeah.
which is just nuts.
I've played the lottery way more times than I usually do, than I want to play in the last couple years.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you, what are some of the craziest things that have you've been in a poker room for? Like the craziest thing I've ever been in a poker room for was playing cash. It was pretty late in the night, but full room over at Parks. I leave my table, like I go to the bathroom, I head into the bathroom, and suddenly there's like a small little crowd over by this table in the corner, and a guy literally had fallen out of his chair, died right there at the table.
Oh my God,
Like
that's crazy.
anaphylactic shock is what I heard. I believe just fell out of his chair, dead.
Yeah.
That's that's got to be the wildest thing I'd ever actually been in a room for. It's nuts. Like,
The craziest thing that happened, I mean, there's been a bunch of crazy ones where just like kind of like fights and stuff like that. But the
mhm.
craziest thing that happened was actually at, I want to say it was LAPC this year. And I actually, I don't think I've ever talked about this, but there was, I don't remember what tournament it was. There was probably 6 or 7 tables like left in this tournament. And then this guy had a mask on. And then it was at another table, and all of a sudden I heard a player calling for security, and I was kind of looking over, and the guy was just sort of sitting there, but then he was having like some sort of a like convulsion,
Oh,
and then he was just kind of sitting there like having some sort of, I don't know what
like
it
a
was, like some sort
seizure,
of an
right?
attack, like a seizure or something, yeah.
Yeah.
And then somebody like put him on the ground, and
Mhm.
then like the paramedics came and took him away, and I was like, oh, it was like one of the scariest things I'd ever seen.
Jeez.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've been in a room. That I think most of my stories are from the old Parks room because I put in a lot of volume at cash there late night. Um, Someone had a seizure there as well. It was very strange because the guy was walking, and at first it didn't seem like a seizure, but then like he was walking very peculiarly, and then he fell over. So it was like that was nuts.
yeah.
That was someone tried to there's someone trying to help out there as well. And then I saw a couple fights there. It was funny. They have this kind of like half wall that runs along the side of the poker room. Or this is the old one. I haven't been to their new rooms. They used to be in the like the sports track building. So they had this half wall that ran all along to get to a bathroom. I saw this guy running like full blast down the wall, jump over it, run over to a table and like punch this guy in the head and then like run back and
Oh
try and jump back over the wall. I don't think he made it. Security got him.
my God.
But it was just so random because I'm just sitting there and all of a sudden you see this burst of activity, guy jumping over walls trying to punch this guy like falling over. It's just like,
Yeah.
man, I honestly in the tournaments I feel like maybe it's because there's more floor and there's more people like watching, kind of gets corralled a little faster. But I feel like the craziness I've seen at the tournaments has been a little less. I think one of the crazier ones I saw around here was I think it was LAPC last year as well. It was one of the Commerce Series. Some guy in a Assholes Live Forever hoodie was just, going off on the table, going off on the other players, swearing up a storm. Then he's going off on DJ. Then he's going off on security, and they'd escort him out. And he's just shouting throughout the room. I'm not sure if you remember that, but yeah, a whole lot of swearing and a whole lot of pointing and yeah, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's awkward though. It's
Yeah,
really awkward.
it's
Security can't touch anybody.
when you think about how many, yeah, when you see how many people actually play tournaments and cash games, and they're just kind of like there, all the time, 24/7, or as often, as late as they're open. Um, I suppose that the crazy things we see is like a very small fraction, right? So I don't know if it is security or if it's just, I don't know, people are better than we think they are. But it just does seem like it's pretty rare that that like really crazy things happen.
Yeah, I think for us in the tournament community here, it might also just be uh, such a decent percentage of the tournament community is kind of regs or semi-regs.
Yeah,
Like someone sort of recognizes most people, and they know they're gonna see you again. Whereas
that's true.
probably a third of the room on a busy weekend night just they play poker once a year. You know,
Yeah, that's true.
so
Yeah,
that could be it.
it could
That
be
could be
that
it
too.
too. Possible.
Yeah.
In a healthy room, anyways, you'd expect it to be full of a lot of people like that. Yep. So yeah, let us know out there in the chat. I don't know who else is out there other than Xander, but maybe we'll put out a tweet too. Like, what's some of the craziest things you've seen or been in a room for? Like I said, I wasn't there last year, but obviously, or was it 2 years ago, when the World Series had the active shooter scare that turned out to be someone breaking glass
Yeah.
like 3 casinos away? That would have been pretty insane. But
Yeah, that was like the weekend I went in between when I was like out or something. So
Oh,
like that was the
lucky.
weekend I wasn't there.
yeah,
Yeah.
very lucky. So
Yeah.
these are definitely things though that the operators in the rooms need to think about. Like, what do you do if there's if there is a
Right.
panic, if there's an
I was
evacuation?
in that room. I was in the room like 2 years ago, 3 years ago when that guy like pulled his pants down. Do you remember that story?
No, I don't.
Yeah, like it was I think he just like got up on the table. And he was like naked, and, like screaming or something. I was actually in the room and I heard the commotion, but I couldn't see it. And then I like read about it afterwards. So I was like, oh, that's
Thankfully.
pretty nuts. It was actually the same year there was like an earthquake too. It was just a crazy year.
That was okay, Year of Destiny type of thing.
Yeah.
All right. So let's see what's next on the old agenda. Let's talk about GTO Wizards' new post-flop ICM custom solves. Right. So you're a huge GTO Wizard user. You are always doing analysis for the community. But you got into a little back and forth here with Matt Berkey, someone random, a whole bunch of Twitter folks here. So why don't you run this down?
Yeah, Berkey was very respectful in this. I was expecting him to be a little bit more of an ass because he's always such an ass. Um, but basically, what happened was that GTO Wizard released this thing called like post flop like custom solutions for ICM, which is really crazy because like ICM obviously like you have it's like the biggest money spots that you can possibly have in a tournament, right? But then be able to like put a situation in, and if you actually scroll up to the top to my screenshots, like you can set like almost everything custom, right? So obviously it has to be like two players, but then you can set like number of players at the table. You can actually set the payout structure. You can then, not only set the specific hand details, but then also like change the ranges for each player, right? And then get the stacks even down to a point something is, for like online play. So it is unbelievable customization, which is not something that typically you can do outside of like a Pio solver, right? So the fact that you can just do this and just get a result in a couple of seconds is really nuts. And this it's like at this point I was always just like, they should do a better job of blocking, solvers around tournament areas. Obviously online needs to do a little bit more, like even like putting in delays or asking, these providers to put in delays. But now I believe that even more so.
So what I'm hearing is online, if it wasn't dead already, it's super dead. And by dead, I mean be afraid, be very afraid.
Yeah,
I mean, you can do this on
it's
your phone. You can be playing online and be running this on your phone.
yeah. Yeah, even in the I'm gonna tell you right now, like the final table that I made, there were some really good players left. I didn't know who they were, and then I think afterwards, or like maybe during, and I think Frank was kind of like feeding me like, "Oh, this is so and so's username." So thank God to our field reporter, he knows everything.
I know, right?
Um, but I like even like sometimes some of the players all of a sudden would dial up their aggression down the stretch, and I'm like, "Is this ghosting or is this the real person?" Now, like it's always making me like kind of suspect, right? And it does suck.
Yeah. So, and I think that the argument or the discussion that you guys are having, reading through it, correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like the crux of it, right, is a how much value do you actually get if you were able to use it real quick? But more importantly, you were arguing that the perception of it is bad enough that it should be stopped, and Matt is arguing that it's not worth enough for the policing it would take. Is that his argument?
So, number one, I don't disagree with him and other people saying, I think that what they're almost like subtly saying is that most people who run it aren't going to be able to do it correctly to get a ton of value out of it. And then the edges are still going to be kind of small when you're talking about just like a couple of hands at a final table, right? Like anything can kind of happen, variance is still crazy high. So they don't really think it's like that big of a deal. I'm also going to say like Berkey's argument about the perception thing is he doesn't actually feel like there's a perception problem.
Mm.
That's actually almost like his argument. He's just like, don't manufacture something. Don't just make something up and scare and like fear monger people. And I'm like, basically, did you see the reaction to what happened at the
Yeah.
final table of the World Series? And then here's a link to a poll that I ran that just like literally asked the public. It was like 3,000 over 3K votes, right? Do you think this is very bad? Do you think this is kind of okay, no big deal, or are you okay with it? And it was like 60% were like this is pretty bad, right? But I'm not going to say that Berkey is, absolutely wrong. This is a very kind of nuanced like topic. He's right that the impact may not be as big as we think it is. The perception stuff, it's hard to gauge, right? We think that it seems bad. We don't have absolute data other than a couple of polls and just some observations that we see. But I think this is kind of one of those things where you almost want to overcorrect for perception. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. What do you think?
No, I 100% agree with you. And, let me tell you why, because I think a lot of the problem for people like Berkey and us to adequately gauge or to adequately judge is because we're so deep and into it, right? We're so heavy into already consuming all the poker stuff. We've done all this studying. We play with players who are in the know, right? How many, like, it's hard for us, how many aspiring or interested potential poker players do we really interact with, right? Because like those are the ones that we really care about. Like the ones who are playing, you can explain it to them, but the ones I really care about are the ones who are thinking about playing, or the ones who are choosing
Right.
between, I could play poker or I could take up fishing, or I could play poker or I could let me look in the sports betting, right? And the closest I've seen to that, I thought a really good anecdote and a really good example of just how they think. You go over the Queens of Poker podcast, Julie's podcast, and listen to them talking about that incident, right? And there's three of them, her, and they had on a guest and the other host, and they're like, they said, paraphrasing, but if you go watch, they more or less all three of them said it's 100% cheating. They can bring the answers up on the phone, and you're playing against the computer, and they're cheating, and that's what they think. And I mean,
Yeah,
from a
that's
certain
the
point of
perception.
view, that is the
Yeah.
perception, though. That's the problem. Like you said, that's the perception. So if they're out there and someone sees that and they're discussing this with their friends that might get into poker, might not, or they are a little closer to the they're not as up on the tech tools that and the solvers and all that as you and Berkey are, and they're closer to the rec side of it. If that's the perception that they have, it's so easy for
Right.
so many other people to have the perception. And if it's so easy to just think, okay,
Right.
you're not playing against a person, you're playing against a computer. I don't understand poker yet because I haven't even started playing poker. I was just thinking of it. So as far as I'm concerned, I either think it's always gambling, or that computer is giving you the exact right answer and I can't win. Right? That's how my
Right.
brain's going to be working because I'm not a sophisticated poker
Right.
player. I'm thinking about it.
And this is a more mature way of looking at it, because I could see some people seeing Julie and that, a couple of people talking about it that way, and their first reaction is like, well, you're wrong about that. Let me correct you. That's not the fucking point. Like, the
Yeah,
point is that people think this way, and they're not the only three people thinking this way. And then all of a sudden, you have like this whole, like, I don't know, silent voice of the people who all think that everything is like super bad. And the more that you perpetuate it, the more that you're going to drive players away. It's just gotta be
exactly.
super careful.
Yeah, like in the our perfect poker world, right? Instead of us trying to explain to our extended families how poker's not gambling, they would all want to come and
Right.
gamble with us, right? Gamble with us because it's a
Right.
fun game and it's a strategy game. But instead, this is just making it even easier for them. Like, well, okay, it's not gambling. Well, then people are cheating. I mean, like they just point at this one thing and it's like dismissed, right? So we need fewer easy dunks for these people so
Yeah.
that we can try and bring them in. And it's just like this one is
Yeah.
just over the top because people already mistrust this sort of stuff, right?
And then Xander's also making a good point too, that the overcorrection is sometimes also, not sometimes, but also has another effect of policing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is preventing bad actors from acting. So the more that you over police, the more that you prevent people from like being bad actors. So yes, you can also prevent people from taking advantage of gray areas, just kind of like what happened at the World Series of Poker Final Table.
Yeah, I 100% hope they clarify in black and white what the rules are around it next year. And
Right.
honestly, I
Yeah.
wouldn't mind seeing someone get disqualified deep in a tournament so that you have that precedent out there. They have
Right.
to catch them red-handed, but they spell it out, 100% cannot do this. Catch someone doing it and disqualify them instead of just like being,
Yeah.
warning. No, disqualify them, right? We spelled it
It
out.
sounds
We
bad,
announced it.
but
We
I
put
mean,
it. Just
if you basically catch one of those people that are obviously just being like unrepentant about it, right, and just kind of doing it, and maybe they're trying to be a little bit sneaky, but they almost just feel like that, they're entitled to it. I'm totally fine with you booting
yeah,
those people to set an example.
yeah. Because if you do that in a big spot, people will complain, but they're gonna have to it's gonna get so much harder because they're gonna have to put so much effort into concealing it, and people that were just gonna
Yeah,
kind of do it because they were just entitled, they won't do it because the risk is too high.
yeah.
It's
And
like,
Xander's asking if WSOP will ever make a. You know what? I think the WSOP has publicly stated before about it. At least if not WSOP, like Kev Math has definitely pointed it out. I kind of feel like Jack Effel had said something about it before, and like the rule that they had this year was actually pretty good about like, hey, literally no solvers in a tournament area, right? You just can't have it in the tournament area, and I feel like that was a fantastic rule.
yeah,
And it just did, this just Dom had a little bit of a gray area. It was in the stands, and then he's making all these other slippery slope
yeah, and
arguments. Oh,
he's
can
not.
somebody just like run the solver over the phone and call me, and then I tell them. But I think that should have counted as like in the tournament area, even though like maybe they wrote it as like for players. Um, but yeah, hopefully then the WSOP just even goes like more overboard this year and speaks about it.
Yeah. So, yeah. So I mean, I think you and I are in agreement. We need to protect the perception that the game is
Yeah.
fair and clean and whatnot. And I think
Hmm.
honestly, Berkey's argument that it's not that big of an advantage. I think that makes it even more okay to quote unquote overpolice. But I do think that part of his argument is that the energy involved in overpolicing, and then like you can't say no phones, right? Because people need their phones, especially in cash games when it's like all day long. You're just trying to get them to hang
Yeah.
out, right? So
I don't I don't know what they mean when they're just like over policing. I'm literally just like saying the WSOP's rule is fine. Just enforce it more.
sure,
You know.
yeah, no, absolutely,
And I know if it's like it's because you already have players enforcing it for you because they like obviously are looking out for it and call it out. But then when it's like so obvious in the stands, and it was just like at the World Series Poker Final table, that seemed like an obvious spot to send a floor man over there and be like, hey, you can't
right.
do this, right?
I think
Um,
I saw in his comments he was mentioning arguing with Savage about whether devices are allowed at the table or not. I think that's what we're talking because like
I don't think
the
anybody's saying that, are they?
people are saying that, right? So Savage said the
That would
wall
be
is it he's constantly kind of devil's advocating up saying, hey, is it time to talk about no phones at the table again? Is it time to talk about no phones while you're sitting at the table? This, that, and that. So people are talking about that because with that rule, I like the rule that the World Series has, but it does rely on either the players or the floor policing it because you can always just
yeah.
sneakily just do it, right? So
Yeah, Savage is always he's always been a little bit underhandedly like secretly anti-phone because he even came up with that like social experiment tournament a
yeah.
couple years
Hey,
ago,
I
you know, the
I played it
LEPC
when
where
DJ did it. I liked it. I thought it was fun.
oh, did you?
Yeah, I played it. I think I cashed it.
Oh yeah, but you're a talker at the table anyway though.
Yeah, I think
For me,
it's good.
it would be death.
Yeah, see, I need to get you in there and get your money in there.
It would be such an edge, right? I did it without any phone to escape to.
Yep. And
That's
then we could
crazy.
have another one where
Um,
there's no talking. We'll see which one's more popular.
yeah, no, yeah, that I think you would just like rage quit.
Oh, I would be gesturing and facial making faces like crazy. Okay, so let's move on from a gray area of maybe cheating to absolute definitely cheating. So this was hinted at for the last couple months, on like Berkey's podcast. They hinted at this several times. I think they hinted at this at not Triton, but I heard someone else saying that there's this cheating um, evidence of cheating going on, but they don't want to disclose details, right? But now they're kind of talking about what is up and they're talking about how it's happening. So let me play this video while I'm explaining. So basically, they showed this on OnlyFriends today, and they start explaining basically what it is that cameras have gotten so small and so good. You can basically have like a Bluetooth camera or something, the size of a fidget spinner, smaller than a card protector, little pinhole camera, and you can just, if you have it down at the table, this guy's got a camera. They set up a tiny camera, maybe right in the one seat, maybe, and you can see that's it right there. I mean, it's like a USB drive, right? That would let you see every card that the dealer is pitching, especially if the dealer isn't pitching, in a particular way. So that is itty bitty. It's tiny. It would just stream straight to say like your phone, and then you could easily the way they describe the cheating setup is you stream that camera. That camera's attached to your phone, feeding it video, and then you stream your video out to a third party who's doing the watching, doing the taking the notes, telling you what everyone has. And this has apparently been caught in France, I believe. That is the only place it's been like red-handed. Someone was like arrested, and I think that is because they tried to take it over to like a blackjack table where the dealers hold the cards and cheated there. But it's been strongly suspected in many games, and someone was kicked out of Triton, a Triton event, and it was suspected
Wow.
of being used at the 50K at the World Series of Poker. These are all the things I heard at Berkey's podcast, and also he had like a list that he was reading off of places where regs and pros have alleged that they are pretty sure that this cheating has occurred. I don't know if it's because of the people they've identified, they think we're doing it, they see them there, or if it's because of observing the games. But Commerce was on the list. Parks and Ben Salem in Pennsylvania, I mentioned before, they're on the list. All the, Berkey said he is basically 100% certain that it happened in his big game in Bobby's room. So this has been going on for a while, and this is definitely something to look out for. I mean, thankfully, unthankfully for us, it seems like it's primarily in the really, really high nosebleedy kind of games, right? But I mean, like, look at this. Look at this device. This little stick over here on the right is what the camera is. I mean, that is smaller than most card protectors. That is, and I'm almost positive the camera doesn't take up that whole stick, right? So they could fit. You could fit that in anything, right? Or it can just be in something the size of a phone. People put their phones down on the felt. So you got to really, be careful of items on the felt. I hope this doesn't get Bulbasaur banned from rooms or anything, but be careful of that. And then the other big warning sign that he saw is that for a lot of these cases, the person would put their phone on the rail, never touch it for the entire session, which is extremely weird, right? If someone puts their phone on the rail, they're going to pick it up. They're going to look at it. They're going to touch it. They're going to do something. They're going to adjust their volume, their music, look at a message. Put the phone on the rail, face down, never move it for the entire session, and then have this thing, or maybe like I said, maybe the camera's in the phone, but you have a third party feeding you all the info, and it's just you can, if you're sitting in the right spot and you're typically he said it's better in the 1-2, maybe okay in the 8-9 or whatever. If you're on one of the sides, you can just capture every card. Yeah, Wayne's coming on in. So Only Friends outlined it in pretty big detail, and they said that it was in the bigger commerce games. They had a report of it, not anyone officially accusing and saying, but saying they're pretty sure this guy was doing this over there too. The Poker Karen. Okay. So, yeah. So this is definitely a thing to look out for, right? So you can be cheated in these things you have to keep your eye out for, especially if you play in the biggest cash games, because that's where they're going to get the biggest return on the risk, right? So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that's absolutely wild. I remember I saw a video a couple of years ago where somebody was doing with like RFID cards. I'm not sure you ever saw that cheating
Mhm.
video. I think it was
Well,
some
I
like
saw with
somewhere in
the
Europe.
infrared decks is what I've
Right.
seen.
Right, yeah,
Yeah.
and they were able to like basically rattle off all the cards as they were being
Yep.
dealt, and it was like nuts, right?
Yep.
But then this is just maybe a little bit of a lower tech one, but
Yep.
like still pretty bad. And was it like mostly just cash games that Berkey was talking about?
Yeah, he was talking about mostly cash games, but he did mention the 50K at the World Series. They had a suspicion of it, and they did mention that someone got banned from Triton. For they didn't disclose, but suspect. His suspicion is, and the people that he got the information from, suspicion was this as well.
Yeah, keep your head on a swivel, man. Playing the game that we love, and we all try to study up the charts and read the people, but then there's other people that are just bad actors and are going to cheat
Yep.
to win money, which really, really sucks. But just keep an eye out for it. Let's just protect each other, right? I think the casinos do their best, and the floor men and the dealers do their best to protect us.
Yeah.
But we can also protect each other if we're kind of seeing funny things. Definitely go and talk to a floor guy and be like, hey, can you just go to the side, pull them aside, like, hey, can you just watch out for C3? I think something weird's going on.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm sure they would be happy to watch them for you.
Yep, for sure. Especially if knowing what we know, I guarantee you that every floor person in all the casinos is not aware of this, hasn't been watching these videos, right? So definitely keep an eye out. And now I will say, I think we're fairly protected in our medium stakes, our medium low stakes tournament scene here. But when you get in that Mega Millions day 3, you might want to keep an eye out. If I was gonna cheat, that would be when you would want to do it, right? Because the real issue with, well, of course, Larry, you do, but you know who I'm talking about. But the good thing about tournaments, right, is you don't get to pick your seat almost ever. Sometimes you can. Some regulars have a little bit of an influence. I have when there's a couple alternate seats. I have like begged them. I don't know what seat you're gonna give me, but please don't give me the 9. And sometimes they bend a little. But in general, your seats are random, so you can't just go into a tournament and be like, I'm gonna cheat my way to the end. With this technique, anyways, right? Yeah. So like you said, this isn't, we don't know any of the people involved. He didn't really name names. We don't play the high stakes caches. If you do, look out, and if you don't, this is just something to keep your eye out for while you're out there playing, guys.
Scary stuff. And actually, speaking of floor men, and then now having Spencer Winston, aka Larry, the floor man, dropping in, I want to give Larry a shout out. He always obviously does such a good job at my table. Again, it's all a blur. I don't remember even which tournament it was in. But I was sort of like napping in between hands because his hand was taking so freaking long. But this player sort of angle shot, and I kind of heard it happening. I kind of looked up, and I sort of agreed with what the dealer had said. It seemed like this player, who is a wild player that I played with before, and he was doing this a lot where he would like act before the turn or act before the river. He would either say all in or like bet or something or just check, right? And it was very sure that before the river had come out, he had said something that sounded like all in. The other player snap called, and then he said, I didn't say all in. And dealer got involved, but not only that, but then like the 9 seed who wasn't even in the hand started to try to get involved, and then he touched the dealer, and Larry was just there trying to control this chaos of a situation with the angle shooter was like yelling, the dealer was trying to get control. This other guy wasn't even in it, was like also yelling and getting mad at Larry, who was like, "Hey, I'm gonna give you a penalty. I'm gonna like kick you out of the tournament." Absolute chaos, and Larry was I could see him getting pissed off because it was such a chaotic situation. But man, kudos to this dude. He just got it under control and just yeah, then just got everything settled.
Man, Larry almost got pissed off. I wish I'd seen that. That's
Yeah, man,
probably once a year.
Yeah, I could see it on his face. He was he was reaching his limit with that situation, but man, he got that under control. And sorry, Larry, I would have helped you, but I was kind of like not paying attention.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So shout out to Larry for sure. Yeah. So Mr. Ringleader in chat here says it'd be nice if we could use the cameras more to try and see. I don't know about using it for see what they're doing on their phones. Now, if someone was suspicious of someone doing something like that, it would probably be good if they could check that to see what they're doing on their phone. But
yeah, and this is what I mean. Like, if you suspect that something weird is going on, go tell a floor man, and a floor man can either watch or maybe even tell security, like, hey, can you watch C3
yeah,
at the table and see if they're doing anything bad, right? So they will. I'm pretty sure they would use the eye in the sky for stuff like that as well.
yeah.
I don't think we should just like like in a police state
Have
sort of
everyone watching all
monitor
the
every
time.
single
Yeah.
poker player in the room. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe some blend of different types of tactics would be helpful. But good suggestion, Ringleader.
Yep. All right. So let's talk about something more fun. Let's talk about rules. Larry's here. Everyone loves rules. Let's see. Oh yeah, Xander. We all agree there should be zero tolerance for mistreatment of dealers. Absolutely. I wish.
Yeah.
I have zero tolerance for it. When someone's like that at my table, they're about to get the full energy of me at the table until they're busted. So they're gonna enjoy that. But yeah, let's talk about something more fun. Let's talk about rules. So we cut this short a little bit last time. I'm not quite sure which ones we covered. I know we talked about the summit existing and how great it was, but I have a couple points from it, a couple of the talking points where either they made a decision or they're just interesting talking points. I'd like to get your opinion on, Derek, and see what your thoughts are. So the first and the biggest one, this is a actual decision that was made. I think I mentioned this before, but just to remind everybody, and I talked to Kevin about it this weekend too, later in the year, when the official new TDA rules are published and they are adopted, every TDA casino, every TDA rule follower will be uniform in doing big blind first. So it's, around here, some places do ante first, some places do big blind first, some places mix depending on if it's a World Series event or a WPT event. All the TDAs decided that for the sake of it being uniform and because players feel bad, I think that was one of the reasons, because there's a feel bad for the players, it's going to be big blind first. So that's huge. We talked about that being really big for micro stacked, for incredibly short stack strategy. So remember, not yet. It's not like that at the Gardens yet. Kevin will make announcements, but it's going to switch. So that's the first one, and I think we already talked about that. So the other one I wanted to talk about is they did make a point to talk about the showing all hands for all ins. And this was more interesting, I guess, during the World Series because we had that clip of Phil Hellmuth chucking his card, giving himself the hand funeral, talking for the cameras and chucking his hands into the muck. And we've had these discussions before. I think before we had a clip of Poker Bunny like freaking out and trying to mix her cards into the muck, all funny to make sure no one could see him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and we've seen, we see lots of people, and we always see this at the tables, right? So the argument was like, well, why do we make people do that? It doesn't stop collusion. And then the other side was, it's an enforcement problem. We need to train enforcement. I guess that's good enough for now. What do you think, Derek, about the all hands must be shown at showdown rule? Or at all ins at showdown rule?
Yeah, number one, just to prevent collusion, it should stay. Number two, that feels like the least trained something. I just feel like that's like the most inconsistently enforced rule, and it's the worst.
Yep.
Right?
So that's
and
what they were talking about it. Yep.
Yeah, dealers are just constantly forgetting, so it would be nice if they did just do a better job of training and enforcing it. Because sometimes like I see players like, hey dealer, they have to flip up the cards, and then sometimes I'm just like
constantly doing that.
Do you not know? Are you just embarrassed to do it? I don't know what's going on, right? But then I'm at the point I'm not even blaming the dealers anymore. I'm just saying like, hey casinos and hey tournament directors, you gotta You got to train them.
So the argument that they throw back is like, oh, with that collusion thing, well, but it's ridiculous. If I leave a single chip back and you call, now I don't have to show hands. So how does it stop collusion?
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know if that's a good argument.
And then the other argument that was made, so I mean I agree with you, so I'm running through the arguments so that I can help you counterpoint them, I guess.
Yeah.
So then the other argument that's always made, right, is that like because it makes players feel bad because they don't want to show or because they whatever, right? So I think that's crap. And I think I mentioned this before that with a lot of these rules where it's like feel bads, I really think it's just training. It's because they've played for so long the other way, right?
That's true.
I made
It's been
that
a long
point.
time.
I
Yeah.
feel like if people are taught right from the beginning that this is how you play poker, when you're called, you show your hand, no one would mind. And you know what? I think that this clip here, this really reinforces that thought for me. So it's it's sort of an anecdote, but this guy has experience.
But my time in Europe and my time in Asia, I have literally not had a single person come to me and say, I really think needs to be changed, or this needs to be, or I think this is unfair. Literally the last time I talked about this, I think was with you at a TDA. So and I.
Okay, so I mean, here's this guy saying he's been a TD over in Europe, over in Asia. Not a single player complains about having to show their hands when they're called all in showdown, right? And my thought is because poker's somewhat newer there, tournament poker's somewhat newer there. I'm guessing the majority of players just learned how to play a tournament, and someone said, "Okay, we're playing a tournament. When you go all in, you flip your hand up," and they're like, "Okay, that's what we do," and that's just what they do.
Yeah. I mean, even here, it's very rare that people get upset about having their cards turned over, but it almost feel like every player who starts the complaint stops just because everybody knows the rule and why it's there.
Really?
Everybody knows.
I disagree, but I do think
Really?
that the people who get mad are a particular type. They're tend to be a grizzled old veteran player, right?
This is true.
Like that's what I think. I
No,
think it's just ingrained
is
and
true.
learned, and they're very, very angry about it because that's not the way poker's played. Like they're just that's what I think, and it's I don't
But you
care
know
if
what?
you're embarrassed, bro.
That's been a cash game. Well, not I guess it's not been a cash game rule for a while.
No, you never have to flip up in cash games, even in all
No,
ins.
the cash game rule is that you can ask, right? Is that you can
Yeah,
ask.
you can
So
ask.
that was,
Yep, you can ask, but you never have to show. You never have to show.
Yeah, but
I
so it
can
shouldn't
go
be
all
like
in
an
and chuck you
unfamiliar.
my chips whenever I want.
It shouldn't be an unfamiliar concept to the grizzled old people just because in cash games the reason why that ask rule is there is to prevent collusion. So in any case, but I think you're right. It is actually a bunch of old misregs that are the ones that complain.
95%, 99% of the time that I see someone making a deal out of it, it's someone who's been playing a long time, and it's someone who thinks they're better than the other players and doesn't want to show their hand, and they're embarrassed and they're whatever. But no, so obviously, we both agree on that. But I kind of agree with people about the enforcement is tough and uneven. And here's what I would have liked to see them do, honestly. So when I brought up the TDA rules and why I love Matt's stance on most rules, is that we have the two kind of rules: the kind of rules that ensure game integrity, which are kind of like rules that make the live game more like an online game, right? And then there's rules that keep people from angling, like you don't act out of turn and stuff. So this, I think, should just fall under the purview of we're just trying to make sure the game is done right? So when you're online, if you hit call, the best hand wins no matter what. So I think the rules should be changed, and I think it should be changed to that every live hand at showdown just gets flipped up, snap flipped up. You don't have to be all in. It could be checked around. If you still have a live hand at showdown, flip your freaking hand up and do it immediately so that the dealer can quickly figure out who won and just move on. None of this like check all around and everyone says, anybody got a pair? Oh, I got a pair. Oh, can anyone beat a 3? No, I don't know. What do you got? Oh, I'm going to wait till everyone shows their hand and then I'll show my straight. Okay. No, just flip. We're at the showdown. Your hand's live. Just flip it up. In order, preferably. But since everyone's is going up, just flip them up. That's what I think.
A little bit extreme. I mean, I think from just a pure results perspective, it would be very efficient and it would be very clear.
Yeah.
But I do think that might be one of those upsetting things to some players.
See, but I think it's the same thing as before. It's because we've been trained that when you lose, you don't have to show. And it's like in cash games, they say, look, the advice is like if the whale doesn't want to show his hand and you have the winner and they say good call, just show right away so they don't get upset. I don't care if you get upset. It's fair. Just like because it's the
Um,
tournament. I don't care. It's because you were taught.
yeah,
It's because you were taught that like it's embarrassing. It's not embarrassing. You should feel good when you get caught bluffing. Just flip your
yeah.
hand up.
But I think some amateurs just aren't going to feel that way, and I think especially new players aren't going to feel that way, especially if they made like a really bad call with something that's kind of embarrassing. It's not even like sometimes maybe the bluff, like you should be a little bit proud of your bluffs, but if you made like a bad hero call or something like that,
Yeah,
you know
but
what I mean? So just yeah,
but
stuff like that.
my point is the whole reason of the all in show is for the integrity of the game, and that you can't accidentally muck a bad hand, which goes hand in hand with the collusion. So you can't accidentally muck a winner. So if they make a bad call,
Well,
they could still accidentally muck a winner, even if they make
sure.
a bad call. So we're just trying to prevent that. We're just trying to make sure that
Yeah,
the best hand wins at the river without any human influence, problem, mistake. And I don't buy
yeah.
people. I don't buy people that think that reading your hand is a strategic important part of the game. I don't think that part. I don't buy that. Like reading your hand
Uh,
once there's no action, reading your hand is not a strategic part of the game. Reading your hand when someone bets to you and looking at it and knowing it's good and calling, that's strategic, but there's no action. Now it's time to see who wins. It's not strategic. It's just you've trained him that he should be embarrassed and throw his hand in. That's
Well,
not
are
that's
you
not the
saying it's
same.
not strategic to be able to see the hand of a player and how they played when in other
No.
instances they wouldn't have
So
shown?
I made this argument before. I think showing all hands also increases the skill edge for people who have a skill edge.
No, yeah,
I think
that's
that
what I mean.
that's a good
It's
thing. But no, but
it's not an.
I'm saying that people say, well, one of the arguments people always make is, hey, we have a thumbs up on the screen. I don't know who put that
I
there.
think it's actually detecting your
Oh
hand
yeah, that's
motion.
right. Anyways,
Yeah.
that's so weird. I uh a lot of people make the argument where it's like, well, if he mucked a winner, that's on him. It's his job to be able to read his hand. That's part of being good at poker. And I said, my
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I don't think that's true. I think part of being good at poker is evaluating whether my hand's any good and calling, not seeing you throw down your hand and thinking you have a flush when you have four to a flush and four to a straight and be like, oh darn it, I hero called you with a pair and it's no good. I throw it away. I don't think that's part of it. That's part of having good eyesight. That's part of, once I made the call, that's the strategy. It's over. Now we see who wins.
Yeah, I mean, I just been playing poker for so long. It was so many inexperienced and kind of new players, and just see how they get embarrassed. There's so many different things, and there's already so much for them to kind of learn and worry about. And they're just sitting at players with killers, and just this is definitely one of those things where I didn't. It's not like a 100%. I 100%
Yeah.
disagree with you,
Well,
but I feel like it wouldn't be
so my
great.
question then is then why are you in favor of the show all when everyone's all in then? Because it's kind of the same thing. It's just a
Well, the
more
all
extreme version.
yeah, obviously, like it seems like an arbitrary line, right, that you're drawing. Like the all in is a line where you have to show, but in some sense, it's I suppose the way in which you can get the biggest chip dump possible, right? That's it.
Yeah, but what's like as the people's argument says, well, okay, what if I just bet
Sure.
80% of your stack and then we just,
Sure.
you know?
But so I think in those situations though, it's like all these things have to align for that to happen where you have two people in cahoots who happen to be at the same tournament table at the same time and both have big stacks, right? And then they just get into some sort of situation where they go into a four bet raising war and then fold with a little bit left on the river so they don't have to show. It just seems like such a whole bunch of different scenarios have to go completely correct for that to get set up.
Yeah, but
But then
that's no
if you just
different
make
than
it
the all in chip dump. I mean, it's the same
I
setup.
mean, but I think basically if they know that the all-in chip dump rule is there, then it's like basically the only ways in which they can do it is in those kind of risk situations versus just like an all-in kind of spot, right?
No,
That's all.
I think, what's the difference if we each have 100 big blinds and you want to chip dump to me if you just bet 98 big blinds instead of going all in and I call 98 and then on the river I show you my ace high and you're like, oh, you're good
Yeah,
and muck.
yeah. It is like a bit of an arbitrary line,
Yeah.
but I do feel like the rule being there for all-ins, it just kind of um, I suppose a little bit more common, right? I don't know. Like let's just
Yeah.
say that you have a player with even like 40 or 50 bigs, who and deep in a tournament, it's kind of a lot of chips, right?
No, for
And then
sure.
they
But
decide that,
I guess my argument is just that if they're chip dumping, they're doing it intentionally.
yeah,
So they're already sophisticated enough to know how to do that. So for
yeah,
my point of view is to remove the chip dumping collusion argument because it's just so easy to poke holes in it like that and just say the whole point of showing is simply to make sure the best hand wins. Now, that stops collusion in this way, but it's just to make
but
sure the
yeah,
best hand wins.
I suppose that arbitrary line also then protects the other side of it, which I think is the embarrassment factor for amateurs, right? Even if you don't agree with the embarrassment factor, the arbitrary line is imperfect, very imperfect. Like basically you're poking holes all over it. But I do think like on average with just preventing people from being able to dump all-ins like that. And then also just not making it so that people just always have to like flip over their hands even when they don't want to. It's almost kind of like okay where it is right now.
But I don't know. I think with the uneven enforcement, like I think the whole point they talked about was like, look, should we just get rid of the rule, or should we do something about enforcement, or should we do something
That's
different?
crazy.
You know,
I mean,
and
it seems obvious
Savage
to
was
some
never
people,
going to
but
let the rule go away, but like that
no
was
way.
because of the enforcement problem, right? They needed to talk about it. So,
Yeah, but the enforcement problem seems so easy to do. It's just crazy. Just like
Yeah.
train your dealers. Be
Yeah.
like, hey, don't forget. Like literally every time before tournament starts, don't forget.
yeah, I don't know.
All in on the river. flip
I
over
just
cards.
think that it's the same issue as the, all in feel bad. Like if people were trained, like if I taught a bunch of 18-year-olds who've never played poker before, let's play some tournament poker, and I taught them that you show every river, I don't think it'd be a big deal. And I think the only way people get embarrassed, not the only way, the majority of the ways that people would get embarrassed is if the other players berated them and embarrassed them. As long as the other players, if we're not a bunch of dicks, which sometimes we are as a community, but like if you're not berating and yelling and whatever, if you don't make a big deal out of the hand they showed,
I've seen players get embarrassed when like the table is silent, right? Like you can almost feel that the table was just like, oh, that was bad, but nobody says anything, right? But you can just feel that the players are embarrassed by some play that they made, and it just kind of sucks actually. And then like the thing is, we don't know how many bad plays people are making all the time because we don't see their cards.
right. But
But
that's
then when
why
all
I
their
think
cards
it's
are getting shown,
that's why I think it would increase the skill edge in the game,
then,
honestly,
yeah,
which is a
it's
good thing, right? We want more skill
no,
without removing.
like sure, I think there's plenty of ways to get skill edge, which
Yeah.
doesn't make amateurs feel uncomfortable.
I don't think
It's
there's a
one
lot of
those
ways
where-
other than seeing showdown.
Yeah.
Personally, I think it's one of the best. And Rudy, you're right. I think you're right there, but that just means your strategy should be to bluff more. If they have to show every time they make a bad call, bluff more, make them show that hand.
I was actually going to say that too. Is that by putting what you're saying there, it's actually going to change the way that people play in probably a bad way. So I think there's a lot. Of
I don't
I
don't think there's such thing as a bad way though. If they adjust poorly, you adjust the other way, and you're good, right? And that's skill edge, right?
Yeah,
It's no different than if you go in and you bluff. You tell everyone I'm going to bluff constantly every hand, and then they adjust in a certain way. Like that's the way to go.
people can sometimes people will hero call a little bit more and bluff a little bit more because of the anonymity that is behind not having to show their cards.
Right, but if they do the other thing, you can adjust the other way and beat them the other way, right?
I just feel like if you actually implement this in reality, like it would just be bad. I think it would just be a bad experience for a lot of people, and I don't think you realize like how bad it might be.
It's possible. The reason we have problem at all is because there are people who are like, oh, it's embarrassing. I don't want to show. They get upset, right? We just talked about them. So
yeah.
I feel like the people who don't get upset about the all-in shows wouldn't get upset about showing every time. And I don't know. If it sped the game up, I'd be all for it. So.
Yeah. Larry, since you're a floor man, let us know what you think. We'll love to hear a professional floor man.
I think I'm pretty confident that everyone who's been playing poker in America for a while will agree with you. But I'm also pretty confident that if you just taught a bunch of people how to play poker from nothing, that they wouldn't think it's a big deal.
I think it's important that people
because this is how it works online.
I think it's important for people who are counter to to popular opinion to state stuff like you're saying right now. We should just have a discussion about it, right?
Because the point is, this is how it works online, right? And there's online isn't dead. You show in order online. Now, when you get to the winning hand, the people after don't show unless you click on the hand history. But that's how it works online. Same with all the other things, right? If I want to see every hand at Showdown online, I just click hand history and I see them all. You know what? And online poker's not dead.
You know what? That wasn't always the case. That started happening more. I noticed it definitely at WSOP, and I'm not sure if ACR even has that right now. But that seemed like a little bit more of a newer development, just because I've been playing online poker for so long that wasn't like a thing before. But like you're right that now it is a little bit like
seeing all the hands.
It's not obvious, but you have to go look at the hand history to basically. So basically,
ever since 2006, ever since I've ever played, you could always see every hand.
Really?
Yeah, I from the very first I've ever played, you always, because I remember always clicking every hand history. I'm like, this is annoying, and you could click and see every showdown hand every time. It's always in the hand histories. At least on the sites that I played, and I didn't play a ton of volume on every site, but I remember I could always see him. And Kinky, Mr. Ringleader there, or Mrs., the goal is for it to be fair and for the best hand to win. And my point is, amateurs are going to make terrible plays no matter what. They'll just be different plays. If they fold too much, that's a terrible play. If I bluff every hand and they fold too much, that's a terrible play. Calling too much is also a terrible play, and they won't have to show, so maybe they call less, but like they're still making terrible plays. So, I mean, if they're making bad plays, by definition, they will keep making them. I don't know. So, I mean, we all make bad plays, right? But whatever.
Yeah, I think maybe the nuance that you're missing is that people make more bad plays when they know it's going to be. It's almost like here's an analogous example, and I think people like Helmuth and Negreanu have poked fun at this before. Is that players that they're playing at a table when they're not at a TV table are kind of playing all wild, and all of a sudden when they get to the actual table, they start playing correctly. It's like they almost know how to play correctly.
Well, they play tight.
But
Yeah,
all
they
of a
play
sudden they
tighter.
start three betting hands are supposed to three bet, and then like all of a sudden, and then they sort of poke fun at them like, hey, you guys are playing super different now that you're at a TV table. You're playing more correctly. So it is that people kind of know, right? And there is some amount of like factor in the anonymity of their hands that makes them play like a specific way. And I do think that you implementing this rule would change like poker dramatically.
I,
It's like you're always at a TV final
yeah,
table, right?
I don't know about dramatically, personally. Just because people don't pay attention, people wouldn't be paying
Sure.
attention, which is
Sure,
another
sure.
reason there'd be more skill edge there'd be more to be gained if you pay attention and are present, right? And
Yeah.
people like people won't use the info, and it's not people don't remember anyways, like 3 hands ago. Like I always say this every time anyone asks to see my hand specifically, or someone else's hand specifically. I'm like, if if you can tell me my exact 2 cards in an hour and a half, I'll give you $100 because I guarantee it's not meaning anything to you. Like if you're the person who's asking. So, because as you know, all of us, you don't tap the glass, you don't ask to see people's cards if you actually know what's going on, right? So they're probably just doing it for tough guy reasons. So I don't know. I mean, I agree with some of what you're saying. Like I said, I would 100% never bet that if we did a poll, people would agree with me. But I also think that it's just wrong. So that's just my opinion. I want all the mechanical aspects to be as much like online as possible.
Yeah,
So-
you're very black and white about a lot of issues.
Yeah,
and I can
and I'll be
see where,
consistent there, right?
well, it's more like you're just drawing like a logical conclusion to this rule and this thing, and that
Yeah.
seems to be a logical conclusion. But I do think you're slightly a little bit throwing out the baby with the bathwater.
Yeah,
a
it's
little bit.
it's definitely possible.
Small baby.
I admit
Small
that it's
baby.
definitely possible. But I think that the impact would not be. It's like I feel like it's like, oh, big blind's gonna ruin it. Everyone will hate it. No one will play. It's like, no, people
Yeah.
are fine. Okay, so the last one I want to bring up. This one also had a news article, so this is why I had them on my list during the World Series. I don't think they came to a consensus on this, but the question is, when you buy into a tournament, when are your chips in play? Are they in
I
play?
hate that this is so inconsistent.
Yeah. So okay, good. So you understand that the problem, and the
Yeah.
one of the questions was kind of like the Kessler story, right? Where someone brought up like, hey, he sat out and he wouldn't. They wouldn't come over and sit.
Right.
He wouldn't play. Like they wouldn't sit. Someone wouldn't sit, or someone wouldn't play. Blah blah. And then the other time it comes up is when someone buys in, looks at their table, decides to unregister, right? So when are your
Yeah.
chips in play? When do you think they should be in play?
The only reason why this matters to me is literally only the World Series of Poker. This is the only reason why it matters. And it's because I don't like to wait online and I want to register with Bravo, right? And often I like to just register the night before so I don't get stuck in an alternate list or something like that, right?
Mhm.
So and it's only just because the World Series fields are so huge and because they have online registration, right? So this is the only reason why it matters to me is that I wish that I could late reg and just sort of walk in and just start playing. But in order for me not to wait online or risk being an alternate, I want to register early,
Mhm.
and then my chips are in place, so I have to go.
Right.
So I don't know what the answer to your question is. Actually, I don't. I just wish that it was consistent, and I would just live with the.
So in that instance, though, if your chips weren't in play and you registered early and you show up late, you're still an alternate, right?
If I
Like
Wait,
if
say
you
that
were
again.
if you were to register early, but you weren't going to
Uh-huh.
sit instantly, they can't give you a seat, so you have to be an alternate, right? Like how can they assign you a seat and like wouldn't you have to be an alternate?
It's more about like, I would rather just sleep in or just do some stuff till 2 p.m. Like I just can't do that.
Right,
You know
no,
what I mean?
but I mean,
But
I'm just like
so-
how could it I'm just kind of pointing out there's no way for it to work for you
so
to be
I'm
able
okay-
to reg
I'm okay
early
with-
and
I'm
not
okay
wait
with
and
being
not
an
be in play.
alternate at 2 p.m. Right. So basically,
Okay.
I'm okay with being an alternate at 2 p.m. I'm
Okay,
just saying
because
that,
then you
like,
could still have a line to wait through. The alternate,
Right.
there's a line
yeah,
there.
but at least like I would. So yeah, I mean, I guess that's a good point
Yeah.
too. I don't know.
No,
I don't know.
and I agree with you. I think that events like the World Series are the only times that this for me, they're the only times this problem gets kind of gray because of that, because of the lines. In a perfect world, as soon as you registered, you could sit. If there's a seat, you could sit, right? So for me, I think you could probably guess what I think. For me, I think your chips should be in play the second you buy in.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
Yeah.
It's like never a problem here because basically even at the Bike and the Commerce, I'm pretty sure the Gardens, like it's kind of weird actually. They don't even open up registration for the tournament until 30 minutes before or something. So I can't even like register the night before, which is kind of annoying.
Now,
Sometimes like, oh, I just register.
Commerce, they did say they were going to try to implement night before registration for the November circuit, remember?
That would be nice.
So he did say they were
And
going to try that.
Well, now this problem is going to rear its ugly head.
Yep.
For me at the Commerce.
And I don't think it's entirely true that you can't register early. I believe, I'm trying to think where. I want to say maybe at the Bike you can register for the next day's events if you might have to go to the main cage. Yeah, I think you can. I think you can register for the next day event if you go to the main cage a day early.
One time I showed up and they're like, "Hey, you can't register for this tournament for 15 minutes, but you can go to the main cage." And I was like, "All right." I went to the main cage. I was like, "Can I register for a tournament?"
Yeah.
They're just like, "No."
What?
They actually said no, and I was like, "What?" They just sent me over here.
We have Larry in the chat. Larry, what's the rule? I'm pretty sure I've registered for the next day, the day before. Probably at the main cage. I'm pretty sure I've done this.
Yeah, I think the people behind the counter sometimes are maybe inconsistent and just don't know stuff.
Yeah,
so
Larry says that should be possible.
Yeah.
So because I know there's a couple times I've come and waited in line and I kicked myself because I just left there like at midnight the night before and I'm like, wow, why didn't I just freaking buy my ticket then?
Yeah. So that's what I like to do is like basically I just want to have the ticket in hand and just show up and sit down and start playing.
Yep.
But then this just doesn't leave me any room to like maybe just sleep in a little bit or something. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
Now the issue. So as Larry points out, their policy is, buy your seat, sit down. If you try and dodge the table or the blinds, you get a penalty. I think that's a good implementation of your chips are in play as soon as you buy in. And I agree. And that's the things he points out are the problems that you run into, right? People walk over to their table. They see they're about to be in the big blind. They kind of turn around. Just like when you're table changing, they kind of try to dodge the blinds and stuff. And sometimes it can be an issue, right? And the other problem, that's Larry's opinion. They don't have that official policy. I know that because I've seen a guy buy in. We're sitting there short-handed, and he sits at the next table over and waits until 7 people or so are sitting, and then he comes over, and I was pretty annoyed. So I obviously I think you should be in immediately, and the blind dodging is kind of the problem. The main problem, I think. The other problem is trying to get short-handed tables started. If everybody wants to wait and they all try to sit out, then the table doesn't start. So the couple people that want to play are now punished, right? So you might end up waiting many minutes before there's enough people to play.
Yeah, I think it's true. I think on the other side of it there, I don't really think too much about the negative impacts of not having chips in play. Maybe there's enough of those in like a list kind of way that makes it so that we should just have chips in play.
Yeah, well, that's kind of different as if they put chips out before the seats are even technically sold. No one would like that.
Yeah, of course.
And then they did have, it's been a little while since I watched the stream. Some people they had a few situations where it's like, well, what if I bought in and then this happened and I wouldn't want to be in there just right away for this reason or that, And it's like Kevin said, well, yeah, if someone buys their ticket and then they go to the bathroom and they come out, like, is that a penalty? It's like,
yeah,
no, but like you could just not do that. But yeah, just, there it is right there. Yeah, I've done that myself. But, honestly, if it was if I bought my seat and then the dealer was notified, my chips came out and started getting blinded out, I wouldn't mind. Some people would, but like whatever. Like that's what I'm paying a big blind so I can be comfortable and I wouldn't have to wait as long, whatever. Here's what I actually think though is I kind of, and this is another rule that will never, I think this one's has less chance of happening than the last one I proposed, honestly, because showing all hands at all in is already close to that. I think what might solve this kind of elegantly is just like, okay, when you buy in, you don't get to play until it's your seat's big blind. Kind of like a cash game without the option of buying the button or without the option of posting. It's like, okay, well, you have to wait until it's your big blind and then you're in. Maybe you wait in orbit, maybe you wait a minute, but your best bet is to get there when it's in your big blind or you're going to have to wait yeah, you better get there, just put your chips out and make sure you don't miss or you're going to have to wait another orbit. Like you have to be the big blind as your first hand. I think that would help.
slightly positive impact. Yeah, and it kind of sucks. It's just like they're such bad actors because, to be honest with you, when I register late for something, I just put the registration slip in my pocket, and sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna get a drink, or I'm gonna grab
Yeah.
a snack, or go to the bathroom. Actually, I don't think about it. I don't think about going to the table right away.
Yep.
And it's because in my mind I would never do anything bad.
Right.
But then when I'm hearing, oh, all these people do these things because of this, I'm like, you assholes now. Like,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
And the other thing that this rule would do is it would encourage people to get there before the event started, because that's the only time you could possibly sit down and get some hands before you have to post your blind
Right.
when a table
Right.
opens.
Yeah.
So if you can
Yeah.
be at the table when it opens, that's an advantage, because 8 of you won't be paying the big right away. So everyone else who sits at a table, everyone else who registers and comes to a table will need to pay the big blind first,
Yeah. That's actually not a bad idea.
Yeah. Honestly, the
maybe
main
try-
downside is just if it's a turbo, you could end up waiting like the majority
Right.
of a level before your blind comes around. But
Right. Or maybe you can just buy the button.
no, you can't. That changes strategy, right? Posting and buying button. But that just means you should have
Yeah.
registered earlier or something. Also, the
Yeah.
nice thing is that punishes the late reggers a little bit, and I don't know if punish is the right word, but it makes it less tactically strong because they have to pay the big right away. Like if you're
Yeah.
gonna super duper max late reg and come in hopefully after a third of the field is gone, well, you're also gonna pay the big blind. I don't know if that's good or bad, but it's fair. Everyone else paid the big blind, and you're coming in late to try and come in after the field's
This is
eliminated.
true. Like, yeah, you could just like post a blind and start playing right away, and then but then you could just wait. How about that?
No, see, that's what I said. I would have to think a lot harder about whether you allowed posting. So
Yeah.
my initial thought is you have to wait till the big blind's on you because of, I don't want to talk about this much, but Kevin, remember he suggested to us, like, well, when people were talking about ante first or blind first, what if we got rid of the ante and did 3 blinds, right?
Yeah,
Actually changes the strategy of the game. So
it does. It just changes it dramatically. Yeah.
yep. So having a dead post out there, it's different. Like maybe then coming in really late and waiting to post in the cutoff, like that's amazing because you have money in and you're cut. I don't know. I'm just saying things, but I would have to think more about that. But if you had to wait till you are the big, I think that's just kind of cleanly solves the problems. It makes it so you can't dodge your blind because you don't get to play. You can't, and if you get there early and you're starting the table, you might miss a blind or two. So I
suppose you can
so it's
still
good.
you can still dodge your blind if you just want to wait, like even after your
You
blind
can
is
just
passed.
not play. Yeah. So like
Right.
that just turns you into a later register, but you didn't dodge a blind, right? Because you
That's
have
true.
to start on the blind, and maybe you're now paying a higher blind because you waited a whole orbit,
Right.
So it's like, Anyways, that's my thought there. So, Savage, if you're listening, these are my ideas. I know they won't be implemented, but I have a feeling you're going to like them.
Why don't you go to the TD Summit?
I might next year, honestly, if I had time.
Yeah.
It's the problem is you got to take time off, and then you have to not play poker that
Yeah.
day.
That's true.
Yeah. And I'm not a TD, so it's like,
I think
they
a lot
still
of
listen.
people-
Yeah, it's still fine. I'm
I think
just
a lot of
saying.
people go that aren't TDs. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, I'll just tweet this at Savage. I think he'll like these ideas, but I don't think these are not popular ideas, as I already knew, but you guys all confirmed. All right. Whew. Man, I love talking about rules. I could do this all night. But let's not. Let's move on. It's we're getting to the end of the show here. Let's head on. All right. This week we have the Mini Mega Millions is happening at the bike at Legends of Poker. They already have 168 people who have bagged, and as we alluded to in the beginning, Mark Fiorentino, the defending champion, has the second biggest bag right now, and he also came in with a huge
Man.
bag at that 500K guarantee.
I don't know what Mark is
final
doing.
two
I mean,
tables.
you know what's weird is I played with Mark semi-frequently. It's like not like that often.
He's on
but
a
I feel
real
like I put
tear, yeah.
but it does seem to be on real tear because he always shows up with a shit ton of
Mhm.
chips, like on a lot of these like day ones, day twos.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, and you know what his secret is? He listens to us. He says he loves the show, listens to it all the
He
time.
actually he also really consumes all the GTO
Yep.
threads that I post, and
Yeah.
he adds very, very good insights to it. So I think he's also pretty well studied himself.
Absolutely. I think that's the real secret is he's actually just immersed in poker and is just
Yeah.
really sharp in absorbing it all and really, really bold when he's playing.
Yeah.
I played with him the other day. He had position on me. Luckily, I had a couple good hands, so he didn't get too many of my chips. I think I got the best of him by the slightest bit. But then when the table broke, just got in there with a bunch of fishes, got a bunch of aces, and just like stacked up huge. So he's going to be a force in this thing. So
Do they ask you what? Do they ask you which day you want to play when you back? Is that
yeah, if it's like the last time, they'll give you one, and you can just say, hey, I can't do this day, and they'll give you a different one.
okay? I see.
Yep.
You're seeing Mr. Tito there with 200K.
Oh yeah, is he?
Yeah, Larry
That sounds
Fong,
about right.
236K. Yeah.
Saw Q's already double bagged as well, and this, Andy Garcia's bagged twice as well. This is there's only been two. This was from this morning, so there's only been 2 days of flights really. So
That's crazy. What the heck? Why is 168 players ready?
2.5. Well, they have 3 flights a day, and it's 20% bag. Remember?
Oh, right. 3 flights a day. I forgot.
Yeah,
That's right.
2 of the flights are 20% baggers. So this is going on all week. There's the morning flight. There's the the 11 o'clock and the 4 o'clock flight, and then there's the afternoon flight where it's the 10% bag. And if I recall, it was like $380 buy-in and $200 buy-in. So flights aren't too expensive. If you're going to double bag, go for it. Also, they'll be having some satellites on Friday and Saturday, and then the day 2s are on Sunday and Monday. And on Sunday, they will also be having a deep stack, if I recall. Let me see if I can get back to their schedule quickly enough. But I believe there's a deep stack. Yep.
Yeah, and on the Mega, obviously, despite our slight reservations on Quantums in general, they're always going to be the biggest tournaments to play in town during the time that they're running. So definitely recommend playing it. But just as a reminder, as a PSA, this Mega has day 2s, one on Sunday, one on Monday, which puts the day 3 on Tuesday. So for all the working people, just be aware of that schedule and what that's going to happen to you if you have to go like very, very deep. I think I think those days start at like 1 p.m. or something like that. So it's
yeah, and then there's another day typically if you like get to the very end, right? It looks like they start at noon, maybe. I think they start at noon. Oh wait, that's the Park West Classic, so maybe not. Check the structure sheets once you're in there, but you're right, those are the right days. And it looks like that 1 day event is actually on, I think it's actually on Monday. It looks like on Sunday they're going to keep running day 1s since the other day 2 is on Monday. They're going to keep running day 1s for the mini mega. So all right, so that's what's happening at the bike this week. So over to Hollywood Park, assuming they don't have any more bomb threats, they will be having a 25K bounty event on Friday. So that's good. $300 buy-in. Then they'll be having their regular 3K bankroll builder on Saturday, and then no tournaments on Sunday because the Chargers will be playing Seattle. Over at Lucky Lady, they have their regular events, but this Sunday, the 11th at 3 p.m. Is that right? Let me click on this link. Okay, so this doesn't make sense. So this says Sunday, August 11th at 3 p.m., and when you click on it, it says Sunday, August 11th. No, okay. Oh, okay. Yep, so 3 p.m., they're going to have a 20K guarantee instead of a 10K. So this Sunday, you got a slightly larger one over here. So if you aren't playing the mini mega and you want to do another 1 day, you can come over here. Personally, I think I would probably start at the daily at the Gardens, and if I didn't go deep, I would come on over here because late reg is pretty late at the Lucky Lady. And these 20Ks they run, you tend to start with 50K chips, which is late reg. You usually still have 40 to 50 big blinds. So I recommend coming here later in the afternoon if you want to come and check that out. So aside from that, we have our regular dailies at the Gardens and our regular dailies at Commerce.
Yeah, looks like lots of stuff to play this weekend, but most likely I'll be at the bike playing something.
Yeah, I think I might play another day 1 flight. I'll probably maybe fire one of the satellites. If I'm playing another day, maybe pick up I'll be everywhere. Maybe go to a Gardens daily if I have time, and then I will probably most likely be just firing a direct day 2 bullet on Sunday into the mini. That's probably the plan because the mini buy-in I think is only 1,400. It's not too bad.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
Yeah. Whereas
for a mil?
Yeah,
Wow.
whereas the actual mega buy-in is the Mega Millions buy-in is like 38 or 36 or something.
Yeah.
So,
wow, that's a big jump.
Yeah, for double the guarantee, but it's way more than double the entry.
Right. Yeah.
Yep. All right, guys.
Is the mega also unlimited at 3,600 or whatever?
Yeah, the mini has mega. Those are both unlimited buy-ins for the first 3 levels. Yep.
That's wild.
And
I don't suspect people are going to be firing like 3 bolts at that thing, but I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, hopefully they don't run into the space problems that they've been having every other time. So I don't think they have any flights until later in the afternoon for it, but definitely check that because it could get big and they could run out of space. So that's going to hurt them and it's going to hurt us.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for joining us, guys. Thanks for hanging out. It's been fun. Thanks for listening to me grouse about rules and, just because I think those are going to be the rules. I know they're not the rules. That's just what I want. It's fine. I know what the rules are. Trust me, and I will not be pushing mine unless Matt Savage starts getting
You're
some
going to be
traction.
pushing yours. You're going to be trying to tweet.
Yeah,
Matt
unless
Savage
Savage starts to push him, then I'll push him. All right, guys. That's all we got for you this week. Any parting thoughts, Derek?
No, that's it. Yeah, thank you everyone for for being so active too. Thank you, Queens, and thank you, Jeff, for
Yep.
the shout outs. But we will see you all at the tables.
Yeah, anybody who's watching who's not subscribed, hit that button. And if you don't have any of our
please.
gear, Derek has some really cool new LA Blasters gear.
Yeah,
Check out the
yeah.
website, lapokerroundup.com, and we'll see you at the tables. Goodbye.
Thank you, everyone.